Welcome to the resistance. Under RecepTayyip Erdogan, Turkey has been lurching toward dictatorship and hardline Islamic rule. Fortunately, a valiant group of individuals has emerged to challenge the rising tyranny, keeping the flame of Turkish democracy alive. In 2013, a peaceful demonstration against urban development in Istanbul's Gezi Park snowballed into nationwide protests as a broad cross-section of Turkish citizens rebelled against the Erdogan regime. Among them was John Dundar, who dared to publish damning info on the AKP's smuggling of arms to Islamist fighters in Syria. For doing so, Erdogan had him imprisoned on espionage and terrorism charges. Undeterred, he continued to write and smuggle out articles from behind bars. Having escaped Turkey, he continues his campaign for democracy and human rights from exile in Germany today. Cumhuriyet, for which Dundar served as editor-in-chief, saw its journalists and executives arrested, and many more media outlets were shuttered, including the Zaman Daily in 2016. Osman Kavala, a generous businessman and philanthropist who has worked tirelessly to promote democratic ideals and minority rights, was accused by Erdogan of planning the Gezi Park protests, despite their spontaneous beginnings. For doing so, he was sentenced to life in prison on charges of trying to overthrow the government. He continues to promote democracy from behind bars, and his resilience remains an inspiration to Turks everywhere. In response to this oppression, grassroots democratic movements sprouted throughout Turkey, perhaps most notably the Gulen movement, led by Sufi cleric and Zaman Daily influencer Fethullah Gulen, a former Erdogan ally turned arch-nemesis. The Gulen movement stands for education, interfaith dialogue, and a pacifist version of Islam reconciled with democratic values. But Erdogan's government has labeled them a terrorist organization. Erdogan has asked the United States to extradite Gulen, but they have refused, citing a lack of evidence. Then, in 2016, while Erdogan was vacationing on the Aegean coast, a faction within the Turkish armed forces, unbeknownst to the top military command, deployed tanks, fighter jets, and soldiers in key locations in Ankara, Istanbul, and other cities. Seeking to restore constitutional order, democracy, and human rights, the rebels bombed the parliament, took over state television, and attempted to capture key bridges in Istanbul. The military raided Erdogan's hotel room, but he had already escaped. From the airport, he promptly FaceTimed CNN Turkey and urged the population to take to the streets. Thousands of Turkish citizens heeded the call, confronting the soldiers and blocking their movements. The coup faltered, but not before over 300 citizens had been killed, with over 2,000 more injured. Erdogan responded by issuing a state of emergency, which lasted over 2 years. Over 150 media outlets were closed. Thousands of judges and prosecutors were dismissed. Tens of thousands of citizens were arrested, including military personnel, teachers, civil servants, and journalists who had nothing to do with the coup. After the brutal crackdown that followed the misguided coup, nonviolent resistance, our preferred kind, to the AKP grew. The 2019 local elections were a testament to their resilience, as Canan Kaftanoglu, an outspoken advocate for democracy, human rights, and the rule of law, led the CHP to victory in key cities, including Istanbul. The loss in his home city was a significant blow to Erdogan, showing that the spirit of democracy in Turkey was still alive. Hopes ran high for the 2023 presidential election as CHP candidate Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu sought to regain ground for the party of Ataturk and secularism. Unfortunately, due in no small part to his control over the media, Erdogan narrowly won in Turkey's first ever presidential runoff, marking his third decade in power. Erdogan has responded to growing discontent with plays from a typical dictator's playbook. He has cynically inflamed religious divisions, building enormous mosques and opening Islamic schools, not for the good of Islam, but to win favor with the public and distract from his economic failures. In 2020, he converted the Hagia Sophia to a mosque, overturning Ataturk's museum designation of 1934. Furthermore, Turkey now has more journalists in jail than any country in the world, including China, if you can believe that. RecepTayyip Erdogan has deteriorated from a capable technocrat into a despot who will do or say anything to maintain his grip on power. The constitutional reforms he ushered through in 2017, although passed in a public referendum, or were they? Questions remain, have irrevocably damaged Turkey's democracy, eviscerating the checks and balances which enable democratic societies to thrive. And it doesn't look like the military will intervene again anytime soon, as thousands of officers deemed disloyal to Erdogan were purged after the coup attempt. Furthermore, the 2017 referendum granted Erdogan even more control over the military. But before you defenders of liberty out there lose faith, take heart. There are still organizations fighting for a free Turkey as we speak. Politicians like Kılıçdaroğlu and former Member of Parliament Selahattin Demirtas continue to fight for a free Turkey. Demirtas, a prominent Kurdish politician who survived an assassination attempt, stands for a vision of a Turkey where ethnic identities can coexist within a democratic framework. He has been in prison since 2018 for making a speech. Independent media outlets like Cumhuriyet, Birgun, and Erisel have remained resilient despite heavy pressure from the AKP. Furthermore, organizations like the Turkish Human Rights Association fight for freedom and human rights despite the constant harassment, imprisonment, and attempted assassinations of many of its members. So what are the future prospects for Turkey's democracy? With the military sideline, we are left to hope for a change at the ballot box, as Turkey's elections do remain mostly free, if not completely fair. Unfortunately, Turkey's next general elections are not until 2028. In the meantime, we'll hope for a shift in Turkish public opinion and victories at the local level for the CHP and other secularist democratic parties. Long live the proud and resilient Turkish people, and long live the resistance.